Expedition to Zealandia. After several flights from Rome, then Buenos Aires, and finally Ushuaia, also known as Fin del Mundo, the locality practically at the end of the southern hemisphere of the Earth, our characters, the researchers, approach the airport of the final destination, which is built on a small island with a very small runway. The researchers, hailing from various countries, brought together their diverse expertise to delve into the mysteries of the icy landscape. Among them were now Zach, Abigail, Josh, Henry, and Vivian, each eager to uncover the secrets hidden within the frozen depths. Their work at the Future Research Institute took an unexpected turn when they stumbled upon a series of unknown viruses in the 15,000-year-old ice samples they collected from the glaciers of Antarctica. Dubbed the Futures viruses, named after the Institute itself, these microscopic entities were unlike anything cataloged by scientists before. Their mission was to collect new samples from greater depths, even over 500 meters, a feat that had never been attempted before. As the aircraft descended towards the Ushuaia runway, the team of adventurers sat scattered throughout the cabin, their excitement palpable in the air. Zach, a young geographer who has already circled the Earth 3 times, although he is only 27 years old, has never reached Antarctica. Moved by the uniqueness of the place, he just kept his eyes on the window and wondered how he would be able to land on such a small runway. As the aircraft descended towards the Antarctic runway, he stared out the window in awe. "I can't believe we're finally here," he murmured, his voice tinged with excitement. "Antarctica, the last frontier." Abigail, a brilliant 30-year-old biologist, glanced at Zach with a knowing smile. "You're in for quite the adventure," she remarked, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "I've been dreaming of exploring this place for years." Abigail could not stop her excitement about the unique places they will see for the first time, and almost indifferent to Zach's comments about the runway, she found herself loudly saying, "A runway, please, with a red carpet for the star of this plane to prepare quickly." Josh, a microbiologist 4 years older than Zach and a veteran of Antarctic expeditions, chuckled at his younger colleague's wonder. "You'd think a guy who's circled the Earth 3 times would be used to landings by now," he teased, nudging Zach playfully. "But don't worry, mate, we're in good hands." Josh was among the leaders of the expedition. They had been here 2 times before, and he was part of the team that discovered the viruses called Futures, just like the name of the institute, because the discovery was the most spectacular of its kind. Henry is an equally talented archaeologist, blonde with scattered hair, 28 years old, specialist in materials and excavations. He obviously didn't have much experience with ice, but instead he had an impressive track record of discoveries and stories for years of expeditions, not only about history from the past, but somehow everything that happens on Earth. He knew everything naturally before everyone else, and even more he understood what happens like this. Henry listened intently to the conversation. "It seems that this runway has undergone changes in length," he interjected, his tone thoughtful. "There was a plane crash here years ago because it was too short. Zach has every reason to be cautious." The 27-year-old climatologist, Vivian, could be called the reader in the stars, or rather in the clouds. She is a walking station that saved the team from many problems and she is part of the team leaders and was at the first discovery of the Future Institute. Vivian observed the scene with a calm demeanor. "Let's not forget to keep an eye on the weather," she reminded the group, her voice steady. "It can change in an instant, and we need to be prepared for anything." As the aircraft descended towards the Ushuaia runway, the tension on board was palpable. Zach, with beads of sweat forming on his forehead, clutched the armrests with white-knuckled intensity. Abigail's eyes widened with anticipation, while Josh tried to suppress a chuckle at Zach's nervousness. Henry glanced out the window, muttering something about the runway's history, while Vivian remained calm, her eyes scanning the clouds for any signs of trouble. As the plane touched down with a gentle thud, there was a collective sigh of relief. But it was Zach who stole the show. With a dramatic flourish, he unbuckled his seat belt and practically lunged towards the aisle, his lips puckered in anticipation of planting a kiss on the icy ground. But before he could make contact, Josh, ever the prankster, grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled him back with a hearty laugh. "Whoa there, Zach!" he exclaimed, his voice booming over the din of the cabin. "I know you're excited, but let's save the kisses for our discoveries, shall we?" The rest of the team erupted into laughter, joining Josh in teasing Zach about his over-the-top reaction. Blushing furiously, Zach sheepishly returned to his seat, his embarrassment only serving to fuel the jovial atmosphere on board. And as they disembarked from the aircraft onto the frozen tarmac of Ushuaia, they did so with smiles on their faces and laughter in their hearts, ready to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. As they waited to board the ship for the crossing of the infamous Drake Passage, Abigail, trying to lighten the mood, turned to Zach with a mischievous grin. "So, Zach, any last words before we set sail into the devil's bathtub?" she quipped, earning a few chuckles from the group. Zach, attempting to mask his unease with bravado, flashed a grin. "Just tell my family I love them if we don't make it," he joked, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. Josh, always one for gallows humor, chimed in, "Well, at least if the devil shows up, we'll have a new research subject." The team laughed, albeit nervously, at the absurdity of the situation. Henry, ever the voice of reason, tried to inject some optimism. "Think of it this way," he said, his tone earnest. "After surviving the Drake Passage, we'll be able to handle anything Antarctica throws at us." Vivian, with her characteristic calm, offered a reassuring smile. "Let's just hope Captain Angelo knows a few tricks to keep the devil at bay," she said, eliciting a few nods of agreement from the group. And so, armed with hope, the team prepared to face the devil's passage and whatever challenges lay ahead on their journey to the Research Institute in Antarctica. As the team gathered around Captain Angelo on the deck of the ship, the seasoned sailor began to explain the treacherous nature of the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage," Captain Angelo began, his voice carrying over the sound of the roaring wind. "Named after Sir Francis Drake, but let me tell you, it's not a passage to be taken lightly. The main reason why the Drake Passage is so beset by storms is because the Southern Ocean, which encircles the frozen continent of Antarctica, is unbroken by land, meaning that mighty winds can rush around the globe unimpeded." Zach, wide-eyed, turned to Abigail with a hint of panic. "Did you hear that? Unimpeded winds? I didn't sign up for this." Abigail rolled her eyes, trying to hide her amusement. "Relax, Zach. We'll be fine. Besides, think of it as an adventure," she reassured him, though her own confidence was wavering slightly. Josh, ever the optimist, piped up with a grin. Hey, at least we'll have some great stories to tell when we get back, right? Captain Angelo nodded in agreement. That's the spirit. And did you know, he continued, the waves in the Drake Passage can be up to 60 feet tall. Quite the roller coaster ride, if you ask me. Henry, trying to lighten the mood, quipped, Well, I hope someone brought their surfboard. Vivian, with a knowing smile, added, And don't forget the seasickness bags. With laughter echoing across the deck, the team braced themselves for the wild ride ahead, knowing that together they could weather any storm, even the legendary waves of the Drake Passage. The samples were extracted from a depth of 300 meters, Henry explained, his voice tinged with excitement. We cut them into pieces 1 meter long and 10 centimeters in diameter, and that's when we made the discovery. As Henry finished explaining how they made the discovery, Zach's eyes widened in disbelief. Wait, you mean we're going to dig even deeper? Like, deeper than a penguin's love for fish? He exclaimed, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Now we have to dig at over 1,600 feet? It will be a huge challenge. Do we have everything we need? Are we ready? What if we stumble upon an ancient ice monster? Zach voiced his concerns, his imagination running wild with the possibilities. Abigail couldn't help but chuckle at Zach's dramatics. Relax, Zach. We're not going to awaken any ice monsters. These viruses are harmless. They're more like frozen fossils preserving secrets of the past, she reassured him, trying to ease his fears. Vivian, always fascinated by the wonders of nature, interjected, It's incredible how ice can preserve the history of our planet. It's like a time capsule, capturing the essence of the atmosphere over thousands of years. Henry, ever the scientist, added, Our methods allow us to study how these viruses evolve over time. Who knows? Maybe we'll even find some ancient viruses doing the cha-cha in the ice layers. Josh, with a twinkle in his eye, chimed in. And who knows? Maybe our research will lead to the discovery of extraterrestrial life. Imagine aliens doing the Macarena on Mars. Until the Macarena from Mars, what is happening there? Abigail asked Captain Angelo, her curiosity piqued. Captain Angelo grinned, pointing towards the ocean. Take a look, he said, gesturing towards the horizon. Sure enough, a majestic humpback whale and her calf emerged from the depths, the baby whale nursing from its mother. A humpback whale nursing its calf, Captain Angelo explained. Look at the end of nursing. A trace of milk colors the blue waters. As the 900-kilogram baby whale rose to the surface to take a breath, Zach was effectively speechless. The team members watched in awe as the grandiose show unfolded before their eyes. Suddenly, Henry couldn't help but break the silence with a touch of humor. Well, I guess if we were in any danger, we'd be dealing with more than just a baby whale and its mother, he joked, earning a chuckle from the group. Vivian, always the voice of reason, added, Whales are gentle giants. As long as we respect their space, we should be fine. Josh, with a mischievous glint in his eye, couldn't resist teasing Zach. Hey, Zach, I think the whales are auditioning for a new dance partner. Ready to show them your moves? With a laugh, Zach shook his head. I think I'll stick to studying glaciers for now, he replied, the tension easing as they continued to marvel at the wonders of nature before them. As the movements of the little whale grew more vigorous, the crew watched in awe as larger and larger waves formed around them. Mesmerized by the spectacle, they failed to realize that the new waves were not solely caused by the whales, but by the relentless force of the ocean itself. The waves are getting bigger, Henry observed, his voice tinged with concern. Is it just me, or is the sea getting rougher? A sense of unease settled over the team as they began to realize the gravity of the situation. The once majestic Viking ship, now dwarfed by the towering waves, felt insignificant in the face of the ocean's fury. Suddenly, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, his tone urgent. "Brace yourselves, everyone. We're heading into rough waters. Take shelter and hold on tight." "The currents here are no joke," Abigail muttered, her eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of respite. The collision of the cold seawater from the south with the warmer seawater from the north creates powerful eddies, especially during storms. Zach, gripping onto the railing for dear life, couldn't help but draw a comparison. "I feel like I'm riding a bucking horse in a rodeo," he exclaimed, his voice barely audible over the roar of the waves. As the team battled against the raging currents of the Drake Passage, their hearts pounded with adrenaline-fueled fear. The once majestic Viking ship now felt like a fragile toy tossed around by the whims of the ocean. "We're like ants in a bathtub compared to these waves," Zach shouted over the howling wind, clinging to the railing for dear life. Henry's face paled as he glanced at the swirling waters around them. "Did you know the west to east Antarctic circumpolar current carries 135 million cubic meters of water? That's like trying to swim against a river of giants." Abigail's voice trembled as she added, "No wonder there have been over 800 shipwrecks here. The Drake Passage is living up to its name." Despite their terror, a sense of grim determination settled over the team. They knew they had to keep their wits about them if they were to survive this treacherous journey. As the ship lurched and groaned under the force of the waves, Josh couldn't help but let out a nervous laugh. "Well, at least we're getting our money's worth," he joked, trying to lighten the mood amidst the chaos. But the laughter quickly died down as the reality of their situation sunk in. They were at the mercy of the unforgiving sea, facing a battle for survival against the elements. More than 5 hours after they had narrowly escaped the clutches of the dangerous waves, Henry recounted their harrowing ordeal with a shudder. After enduring the relentless onslaught of the waves, Zach's nerves were frayed, his patience worn thin, and a throbbing bump on his head. With a groan of pain, he turned to Henry, his eyes wide with frustration and exhaustion, and asked, "Henry," he began, his voice trembling with emotion, "where did you disappear to during the worst of it? Why didn't you help me?" Henry, taken aback by Zach's accusatory tone, quickly composed himself before responding. "Zach, I was just trying to hold on myself," he explained, his voice tinged with regret. "The waves were fierce, and I couldn't risk being thrown overboard." Abigail, attempting to stifle a laugh at Zach's expense, inadvertently struck her mouth, causing her to wince in pain. As she removed her hand, her swollen lip gave her the appearance of having undergone lip augmentation surgery. Despite his own discomfort, Zach couldn't help but be amused by Abigail's predicament. "Wow, Abigail, you're really taking the phrase pouty lips to a whole new level," Zach joked, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. "But seriously, what kind of help were you expecting? Maybe I needed more?" she added, unable to resist teasing him in return. Then, Henry continues, "Not only were we bouncing up and down on huge swells, but we were also twisting side to side." Henry's voice trembled as he recalled the tumultuous journey, his words punctuated by the groaning of the ship's hull. "I clung to the side of my bed with white knuckles to keep from falling out." Vivian, with a weary smile, added, I finally gave up trying to stay put. I shoved my mattress onto the floor and flopped on top of it, hoping for some semblance of stability. As Henry continued, the memory of the chaos was still fresh in his mind. Everything that wasn't bolted down, books, bottles, papers, pens, went flying through the room, he explained, his voice tinged with disbelief. It was like experiencing zero gravity that had somehow sped up, a whirlwind of chaos and uncertainty. Now that you're talking about how astronauts float through the air, we were also leaves blown by the wind. How lucky I escaped, Vivian chimed in with a grin. Abigail, her swollen lip now the center of attention, spoke up on her behalf. Well, my mouth is not outside of you, and from now on it won't be restrained either, she quipped, shooting a mischievous glance at Zack. Zack, unable to contain his amusement, couldn't help but join in the banter. Hey, don't worry, Abigail. Maybe you will start a new trend with your natural lip enhancement, he joked, his tone light despite the lingering pain. As Zack teased Abigail about needing a bandage for her swollen lips, he couldn't help but wear a mischievous smirk, knowing he was about to elicit a playful response. But seriously, Abigail, don't you think you need a bandage for those lips? He added with a smirk, earning a round of laughter from the group. However, before Abigail could respond, she simply raised her hand, signaling to Zack not to bother saying anything. With a knowing look, she let her exaggerated swollen lips speak for itself, eliciting even more laughter from their companions. Despite their exhaustion, the team couldn't help but share a nervous laugh at the absurdity of their situation. They had weathered the storm, battered but unbroken, and now, as the ship finally sailed on calmer waters, a sense of relief washed over them. They had survived the Drake Passage, and nothing could dampen their spirits now. As they reached the shore, the team found themselves in awe of the breathtaking landscape before them, a vast expanse of white, punctuated by the distinctive black spots of the penguin colonies. The biting cold air made conversation difficult, but Vivian and Josh, seasoned guides of the Antarctic terrain, effortlessly led the group towards their base. "Whoa, check out the Penguin Highway," exclaimed Zack, his eyes tracing the well-trodden paths in the snow. "It's like they've got their own little commute route." Abigail, her fascination with the penguins evident, couldn't contain her excitement. "Look, some of them have chicks," she observed, pointing towards a group of penguins huddled together. "Did you know that penguins have these elaborate mating rituals and are super devoted parents?" she shared, regaling her teammates with intriguing facts about the penguin families. Meanwhile, Henry, ever the curious archaeologist, found himself drawn to the seemingly endless expanse of ice beneath his feet. "I can't believe this entire ground is just ice," he mused, kneeling down to examine the frozen surface. "I wonder how they conduct excavations here. It's like trying to dig through a giant ice cube." As Vivian briefed the team on the journey ahead, she mentioned that they were still in a tourist area, prompting Josh to add that they might even spot some adventurous tourists along the way. Zack, always up for an adventure, couldn't help but express his fascination with the idea of being a tourist in Antarctica. "You know what? I've always wanted to try kayaking in Antarctica," he declared, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Just imagine gliding through those icy waters surrounded by towering icebergs and curious penguins. It's like a scene straight out of a nature documentary." Abigail, intrigued by the thought, chimed in, "And what about stand-up paddleboarding? I never thought I'd associate supboarding with Antarctica, but it sounds like an unforgettable experience. Paddling through quiet coves, listening to the sounds of nature, it's a whole different kind of adventure. Henry, always the adventurous spirit, couldn't help but interject with his own enthusiasm. Don't forget about snowshoeing and mountaineering. Who knew you could explore glaciers and mountains in Antarctica? It's like a playground for outdoor enthusiasts. As they discussed the various activities available to tourists in Antarctica, the team's excitement grew, each one eager to embark on their own Antarctic adventure and create unforgettable memories along the way. Vivian interjected, cutting off their musings about tourist activities that seemed to distract them from their professional duties. "Let's not forget why we're here," she reminded them sternly. Josh, sensing the fatigue setting in, suggested, "Maybe we should take a break. We've been walking for 3 hours non-stop." Henry, assessing their progress, replied, "We still have a long way to go before we reach the bottom." Vivian, concerned about the approaching darkness, urged, "We can't afford to get caught unprepared. We need to reach the base before nightfall, as we're gearing up for the real ascent tomorrow." Henry, directing his frustration toward Zach, questioned, "I still don't understand what you're doing here, Zach. There are no restaurants to review or places to visit." Zach responds, "You asked this, and you didn't even notice that we've been walking in the wrong direction for an hour." Josh defensively retorted, "But Zach, we've been here twice before. You've never been here, so how do you know where we're going?" Zach responded, his tone defensive yet earnest, "I'm here because maybe I know how to interpret data, retain, and understand maps. And right here in this place, the penguins are not the same, and neither are the glaciers next to them." Vivian, sensing the tension among the group, intervened once more, her voice calming. "Let me check. Zach has a point. I don't understand how, but I led us in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. We need to keep moving forward." Abigail couldn't hold back his frustration. "What kind of thanks do you expect, Zach? You let us go the wrong way for an hour with all this luggage, and you still want thanks." Zach, trying to lighten the mood, joked, "Well, at least I let you all enjoy the penguins." But Vivian wasn't amused. "This isn't the time for jokes, Zach. We need to stay focused and keep moving. Those clouds on the horizon are a cause for concern. We can't afford any surprises." With a renewed sense of urgency, the team pressed on, their determination to reach their destination overriding any lingering frustrations. As they finally reached the base, Zach couldn't contain his joy and pride at their achievement. "We made it," he exclaimed, a wide grin spreading across his face. The others, relieved to have reached their destination, began mingling with the researchers already present at the base, John and Adrian. Abigail clapped John on the back, congratulating him. "Well done on beating the freezing temperatures. -50 degrees? That's just a walk in the park, right?" John chuckled. "Thanks, you get used to it after a while. But those special suits of yours definitely helped." Henry, examining his suit with fascination, remarked, "They do make us look like astronauts, don't they? Maybe we can explore the moon next." Josh, always one to inject humor into any situation, quipped, "Who needs the moon when we have Antarctica? It's like the moon, but with more penguins." Vivian, ever the pragmatist, added, "Well, let's just be grateful for these suits. Without them, we'd be popsicles by now." With laughter and camaraderie filling the air, the team settled in at the base, ready to face whatever challenges Antarctica had in store for them next. As the day dawned early, the team stirred from their slumber, knowing that another day of adventure and exploration awaited them in the icy expanse of Antarctica. With the sun barely peeking over the horizon, they gathered in the base camp, ready to prepare for their journey ahead. Josh, ever the meticulous planner, took charge of organizing the team's equipment. "All right, everyone, let's make sure we have all the necessary gear for today's expedition," he announced, gesturing towards the array of supplies laid out before them. Abigail, always eager to learn and understand new technologies, couldn't help but inquire about the hot water drilling device they would be using. "So, how exactly does this hot water drilling work?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Henry, with his expertise in materials and excavations, stepped forward to explain. "Well, it's quite fascinating, really," he began. "Drilling a vertical hole through the Filchner ice shelf, measuring only 30 centimeters wide but 900 meters deep, would theoretically require more than 60 cubic meters of hot water, a tremendous amount, especially given the fact that all of the water on the shelf is frozen solid." Vivian, the resident climatologist, nodded in agreement. "Indeed, but here's where it gets interesting," she added. "To be able to drill nonetheless, we have a trick up their sleeve, melting the water they need for drilling right on top of the ice shelf." As they listened intently, Henry continued to elaborate. "First of all, we prepare the starting water," he explained, pointing towards an image on the screen. "To do so, we melt a small amount of snow and heat it to 95 degrees Celsius. We then keep adding snow bit by bit until we've made 10 cubic meters of hot water." Zach, fascinated by the ingenuity of the process, couldn't help but marvel. "It's incredible how science allows us to overcome even the most extreme challenges," he remarked, his admiration evident in his voice. With their preparations complete and their minds filled with anticipation, the team set out, ready to embark on their next adventure in the icy wilderness of Antarctica. As the team trudged along the icy terrain, the weight of their suits and equipment became increasingly burdensome. Despite the relatively more acceptable temperatures brought on by global warming, Zach was the first to voice his discomfort, lamenting the heaviness of his suit. "I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the entire expedition on my shoulders," he groaned, struggling to keep pace with the others. Vivian, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood with a playful jab. "Don't worry, Zach. If we lose you, we'll just follow the trail of breadcrumbs you've been dropping along the way," she quipped, earning a chuckle from the group. Abigail, never one to miss an opportunity for wit, chimed in with a mischievous grin. "Yeah, and who knows, maybe losing you won't be such a big loss after all," she teased, earning a playful swat from Zach. As the team set up the hot water drilling equipment, they prepared themselves for the arduous task ahead. With each passing hour, their determination grew stronger, fueled by the prospect of uncovering new discoveries buried beneath the ice. Zach, sweating from exertion, wiped his brow and glanced at the depth gauge. "We're almost there. Just a little further," he encouraged, his voice strained but determined. Abigail, her hands raw from the labor, nodded in agreement. "Let's keep pushing, team. We're on the brink of a breakthrough," she urged, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Henry, his expertise in excavation coming into play, adjusted the drilling machinery with precision. "We've come too far to give up now. We'll get those samples no matter what," he declared, his determination unwavering. Vivian, monitoring the conditions closely, offered words of reassurance. "We're doing great, everyone. Just a little while longer and we'll have what we came for, she said, her voice steady despite the fatigue evident in her eyes. Josh, his enthusiasm undiminished by the grueling work, added a touch of humor to the situation. Who knew digging through ice could be this much fun? Remind me to add it to my list of hobbies, he joked, eliciting a chuckle from his teammates. As the ground beneath them trembled, a collective gasp escaped the team's lips. Panic surged through their veins as they looked to Zach, accusations ready to fly from their lips. But before anyone could utter a word, the ice beneath them gave way, sending them hurtling into the unknown depths below. Screams echoed through the icy tunnel as they plummeted, each second feeling like an eternity of free fall. Fear gripped their hearts as they braced for the worst, their minds racing with thoughts of impending doom. But as suddenly as it had begun, the terrifying descent came to an abrupt halt, leaving them breathless and disoriented. Slowly they opened their eyes to a surreal sight before them. A magnificent cavern stretched out before them, illuminated by a soft, ethereal glow. Stalactites shimmered like diamonds overhead, casting intricate patterns of light quite across the icy walls. A sense of awe washed over them as they took in the otherworldly beauty that surrounded them. Amidst the stunned silence, Zach's voice broke through the spell. "Well, that was unexpected," he remarked, his tone a mixture of disbelief and wonder. Abigail, her heart still pounding in her chest, found herself at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say," she stammered, her eyes wide with awe. Henry, ever the pragmatist, began to assess their surroundings with a critical eye. "It appears we've stumbled upon something truly remarkable," he observed, his mind already racing with possibilities. Vivian, her scientific curiosity piqued, stepped forward to examine the walls of the cavern more closely. "We must document everything," she declared, her voice tinged with excitement. Josh, ever the optimist, couldn't help but grin. "Well, I suppose getting lost isn't so bad when it leads to something like this," he remarked, his enthusiasm infectious. As Zach gingerly approached Abigail, his intentions focused on helping her with her bitten lip. A sudden slip sent him tumbling over ground with a startled yelp. Before anyone could react, Henry lunged forward to assist, only to find himself careening off balance as well, setting off a chain reaction of comical falls that seemed to defy gravity. With a collective gasp, the ice floor gave way beneath them once more, plunging them into the icy depths below. Darkness enveloped them as they tumbled through the frigid waters, their senses reeling from the shock of the sudden fall. But just as quickly as it had begun, the chaos subsided, and they found themselves emerging into a scene straight out of a dream. The air was warm and fragrant, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. Lush greenery surrounded them, painting a picture of paradise amidst the stark, icy landscape of Antarctica. Blinking in astonishment, they glanced around at their surreal surroundings, disbelief mingling with wonder in their eyes. Where are we?" Abigail murmured, her voice barely more than a whisper as she took in the breathtaking scene before them. Henry, ever the skeptic, frowned in confusion as he scanned their surroundings. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, his brow furrowed in consternation. "We were just falling through the ice. How did we end up here?" Vivian, her scientific curiosity piqued, stepped forward to examine the unfamiliar flora with keen interest. "It's like we've stumbled upon a hidden oasis," she observed, her eyes alight with fascination. "But how is this possible?" Josh, always one to embrace the unknown with open arms, grinned at his companions. "Well, wherever we are, it looks like we've landed in paradise," he remarked, his tone laced with excitement. "I say we make the most of it and explore." As Zack hastily discarded his torn garments and battered suit, Vivian couldn't help but arch an eyebrow at his audacity. "Zack, have some modesty, please," she admonished, her tone a blend of amusement and exasperation, as she attempted to salvage what remained of her own tattered blouse. Meanwhile, Henry, unaware of the sartorial chaos unfolding around him, was joyfully skipping through the sand, his bare toes sinking into the velvety softness with childlike glee. "Come on, everyone, you've got to see this!" he exclaimed, beckoning his companions to join him. Intrigued, they gathered around Henry, marveling at the unusual pink-hued sand beneath their feet. As Henry sifted through the fine grains, their eyes widened in astonishment as rare and valuable minerals began to surface, catching the sunlight in a dazzling display. Josh, ever the opportunist, couldn't resist the allure of these precious treasures. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he reached for his pockets, only to realize with a start that his suit was in tatters, devoid of any functional storage space. His companions erupted into laughter at the sight of Josh's futile attempt to pocket the minerals. "Looks like we'll need a new strategy for transporting our newfound riches," Abigail remarked, unable to stifle her amusement as Josh sheepishly abandoned his pocketless endeavor. And so, with their pockets empty but their spirits buoyed, the intrepid explorers continued to explore this enigmatic landscape, their laughter mingling with the gentle rustle of the pink sands beneath their feet. In the distance, Mr. Vivian's eagle eyes caught sight of a menacing cloud looming on the horizon, prompting him to urgently warn the team to seek shelter. However, much to their surprise, the cloud turned out to be a swirling mass of dust, heralding the arrival of an unexpected visitor. Emerging from the dust cloud was a striking young woman, accompanied by not one but 5 towering Tyrannosaurus rexes, one of which she gracefully dismounted. As the team gaped in astonishment, Abigail couldn't resist sharing her knowledge about the fearsome T-Rex, detailing its formidable size and unique features. "Guys, let me tell you about this incredible creature," she exclaimed, launching into a spontaneous paleontological discourse. The Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the largest land carnivorous dinosaurs of all time, typically measures 13 meters in length and stands at a towering height of 4 meters, Abigail began, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "But look at this one. It seems to be a whopping 15 meters long." Her eyes sparkling with fascination, Abigail continued. "Throughout history, the weight of T-Rexes has fluctuated from 4.5 tons to almost 8 tons, but this particular specimen appears to be around 10 tons. Pointing towards the creature's forelimbs, she noted, "Ordinarily, T-Rexes had 3 fingers on each forelimb, but this one seems to have 5 fingers, a fascinating anomaly. And let's not forget about those fearsome teeth," Abigail exclaimed, gesturing towards the creature's formidable jaws. The largest T-Rex tooth ever discovered measured 30 centimeters, but these teeth look like they could be a meter long. But before Abigail could finish her impromptu paleontological lecture, Josh interrupted with a bemused expression. "Analyzing dinosaurs, Abigail? Did you forget who's coming down?" he exclaimed, gesturing towards the enigmatic woman approaching them. The woman, with her azure eyes, white hair, and chocolate skin, cut an otherworldly figure, clad in a futuristic, Atlantis-inspired ensemble that only added to the mystique of the moment. Speaking in a language unfamiliar to the team, she smiled cryptically and gestured towards the ancient structures surrounding them, leaving the team bewildered and intrigued. Henry, ever the pragmatic one, couldn't help but voice his concerns. "But seriously, how on earth do you control these massive creatures?" he asked incredulously, eyeing the towering T-Rexes with a mixture of awe and apprehension. As the mysterious woman approached, her appearance and demeanor leaving the team bewildered, Henry couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "And who exactly are you?" he inquired, his tone a blend of skepticism and intrigue. The young woman, her features enigmatic yet serene, began speaking in a language unfamiliar to the team. However, to their astonishment, upon touching her bracelet, the meaning of her words became clear, transcending the barriers of language and communication. She introduces herself as Calliope and then announced, her voice resonating with an air of mystery and intrigue. "Welcome to Zealand, the 8th continent on Earth." "Wait, the 8th continent?" Josh echoed, his skepticism palpable. "But why isn't it on most maps?" "Zach, the 8th continent does not appear on most maps because 95% of it is hidden in the Pacific Ocean and has disappeared." Henry, the group's resident historian, stepped in to shed some light on the matter. "Well, you see, the maps do depict Zealandia, albeit not in the way you might expect. They showcase its submerged form, revealing the contours of the continent on the ocean floor and tracing its tectonic history," he continued, delving into the geological origins of Zealandia. Back when the supercontinent Gondwana split into 5 separate landmasses, South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and Zealandia, it marked a pivotal moment in the Earth's history, occurring some 50 to 150 million years ago. With Henry's explanation, the team began to grasp the magnitude of their discovery, realizing they were on the cusp of unraveling the mysteries of an ancient and elusive continent. Calliope continued, her voice resonating with warmth and sincerity. "Here on this continent, we live in harmony with all the species on Earth. In addition, we can communicate with them. And yes, we are aware of each continent and the technology you possess, which, by the way, we also had thousands of years ago." Abigail, intrigued, examined the bracelet. "Do you communicate with this bracelet?" "Yes," Calliope confirmed with a gentle nod. "It is an accessory that we all have here." Calliope extended her invitation to accompany her, gesturing toward the waiting dinosaurs, each towering yet surprisingly gentle beneath her command. "One at a time, please," she encouraged with a reassuring smile. As the team hesitated, eyeing the massive creatures with a mixture of awe and trepidation, Zach couldn't resist a quip. "So, you say your technology is advanced, and yet here we are traveling on the back of a dinosaur?" Calliope's laughter echoed through the air as she guided her dinosaur alongside the group. "Ah, yes, our methods may seem antiquated to you, but sometimes the most unconventional means can lead to the most extraordinary experiences. When else will we have the opportunity to ride a dinosaur?" Abigail chimed in with a grin. "Besides, riding a dinosaur is definitely a first for us." Henry, holding on to his dinosaur's back ridge tightly, added with a wry smile, "Who needs a spaceship when you've got a T-Rex taxi?" With a deep breath and a shared glance of determination, they each cautiously approached a dinosaur and clambered onto its back, guided by Calliope's gentle instructions. Several kilometers into their journey, a sprawling cityscape emerged on the horizon, its towering spires and intricate architecture stretching toward the sky in a mesmerizing display. "Zach, are you sure about this?" Vivian whispered nervously, her eyes darting between the unfamiliar surroundings and the seemingly endless expanse of city ahead. Zach flashed a confident grin. "Hey, when in Zealandia, right? Besides, what's the worst that could happen?" Vivian shot him a skeptical glance, but her fears were soon overshadowed by a sense of wonder as they continued their surreal journey through the ancient city, guided by their enigmatic host, Calliope. Despite their initial skepticism, the team found themselves embracing the adventure, marveling at the unique blend of ancient and advanced technologies that defined life on Zealandia.